This is part 4 of the Adobe oven project. Since the end of part 3, I've done a few things to this oven, which is substantially complete from a structural standpoint. I've let it dry out for 2 full weeks, and just to let the bricks harden up. And I've also had several hot fires in the oven. If you look here closely at the surface, you can see there's been some cracking, but these cracks are really superficial. They're only about 1/4 of an inch deep. The fires inside were really intense and lasted for several hours, but what I found was that it took more than an hour for any heat whatsoever to reach the outside surface of this, and several hours after the fires had burned and burned out, the oven outside was still warm to the touch, but never got so hot that you couldn't put your hand on there and leave it. I also constructed this door to the oven, which has a clay tile liner that acts as a heat shield. So my next step is now going to be to put a waterproof concrete outer shell on this, and I'm going to use a colorant to make it a sort of a terracotta color. So that'll be the next sequence of steps, is plastering the outside of the oven shell. This is about not quite 50% done. You can see it's producing a smooth, fairly smooth concrete surface. I've got a little touch up to do, particularly around the top part, but I'm able to trowel it using a wet trowel. Gets it pretty smooth. I estimate I'm putting maybe 1/4 of an inch on the outside of this, and the coloring will get lighter when it dries. So this kind of deep terracotta color is not necessarily going to be the finished product, and if I don't like it, I can actually paint over the top of it, because the oven does not get hot enough on the outside after it's been cooking for hours to prevent me from putting paint on it. So keep on going. Once I had covered the whole oven body with this coat of waterproof cement, I went back and worked on it for a couple of more hours, wetting the surface and kept it kind of wet, and used the trowel to smooth out all the wrinkles and pretty it up as much as I could. This worked pretty well. I mean, I'm very pleased with the way that it turned out. It gives it a very nice finished look. It's smooth to the touch. I don't think it's going to crack on the outside. So all in all, I'm very pleased with this cosmetic treatment. So here's the finished product. To some eyes, it may look a little bit too finished. It's kind of hard to tell that there's just a mud oven underneath that. But it is pleasing to the eye, and the look will grow on you, and you'll see when we get the stone on it, it looks quite nice. These are 16-inch slate stone tiles. I've treated them with an impregnator to harden them up, and then a sealant to make them relatively waterproof. And I'm just going to glue them onto the vertical face of the plywood platform that supports the oven. So come on over to the oven and I'll show you how this all comes together. Okay, so the main body of the oven is basically done, nothing to do there. And down here on the plywood platform, I've applied some waterproof fence stain that will keep the plywood from buckling if any moisture gets in there. And along the bottom, I've installed this little redwood wood strip that the tile will sit on, and that will act kind of like an expansion joint between the fire brick and the cement patio. So now I just have to cut the tile on my water-based tile saw and glue it on with construction adhesive. This is my my water saw, my tile saw. It's one of these great little $99 investments that you don't use very often, but it's really sweet to have. It just cuts through this stone tile pretty much like it was butter, and doesn't make a huge mess because the blade rotates through a water bath which picks up all the dust that would normally come flying off of these stone tiles, and it gives you an absolutely clean cut. So I had to cut in the end probably 3/4 of the tiles, trimming some of them just a 1/16 of an inch and cutting others to where as needed to fit the platform. But it was a nice part of the job. I enjoy using this tool. Now, before I apply the adhesive to the back of these tiles to glue them on here, I needed to lay it out to sort of plan out what I want. And this is my most visible corner here, so I got what I reckon are the best looking tiles to put on this corner and on this face, and the relatively less attractive ones are more problematic because they're thicker or uneven around towards the sides where you can't see them as much. So, and then I've laid them all out. I know the order in which I'm going to do it, and I know I'm going to have to make at least 4 or 5 cuts on my water saw, but that's not going to be a problem. So I'm ready to start this process, and we'll see how it goes. I'll check back with you in just a minute. Okay, so this is how I'm applying the adhesive to these pieces of stone tile. And they fit just like this. So that's how that works. Of course, I'm cutting each piece to fit. Okay, well, it's all finished. So come on, follow me. I'll show you what we've got. It's here at the back of the yard. So here we have one finished handmade Adobe oven. I've put all the stone facing on, glued it on, and snugged it up, and it's all tight. So how this is used is you build a fire on the inside, a good hot oak fire, and let it burn for a couple of hours. And then when it's all burned down to ash, you skid the ash out of the way, or you take it out. You put your meat in there. Close up the door with this special tile insulated door. Close it up snug. Put the plug back in the chimney hole and go away for about 5 or 6 hours. So, there you go.
Congratulations.